Well, that didn't work.
All right. It is my sad duty to inform you that our bonfire wouldn't start. And so I welcome you to our Hexennacht event in the house. So, here we are. My name's Wilke, everybody knows that. And this is my good friend, Chris Gass, one half of... Help me again?
Astrosonics is the band.
Astrosonics, fantastic. And so, we're going to do the Hexennacht talk.
Happy Hexennacht to all.
We've been drinking.
And we've been discussing why there isn't a Hexennacht celebrated nationally in the United States.
It's a good question. I mean, obviously, with the Christian majority in the country, and the paganness of Hexennacht, along with, it being the founding date of LaVeyan Satanism, that's going to be problematic, of course. But we recognize Yom Kippur and Ramadan. So where's my Hexennacht?
We demand Hexennacht.
And
you know what? Who could argue against having 2 Halloweens in a year?
Right?
Everybody loves Halloween. We all love Christmas, but we all love Halloween more. Let's face it, who doesn't like candy? Now, maybe this wouldn't be so much the candy Halloween as it would be the trickster Halloween. But it would be a fun event nonetheless.
And we also want to, keep in mind and consider, the deeper connections. Because as we think about it, Walpurgisnacht / Hexennacht, as we're talking about right now, has connotations broadly when we talk about the broader burning times, Holocaust of pagans across Europe that happened from the 1400s to 1700s. I mean, are we talking about 300 years of thousands of people being burned at the stake because they held a different viewpoint than that of the majority? Can we get some commemoration of that? I don't know. That's just me talking. Okay.
But a little bit about, we can talk a little bit about the holiday, I guess.
Yeah, so...
Walpurgisnacht.
So Walpurga was a Catholic saint canonized in the 8th century. She was from England and worked with the sick. And because of the connection of wise people or witches and healing the sick, you've got this connection between Walpurga herself and then the witches who...
Well, I think they would come in and they would wreak havoc on towns. It's kind of what the old lore was,
right,
the pagan traditions.
I mean, when they talk about this wreaking havoc, we're talking about spoiled crops, and that's almost certainly a weather event.
Sure.
Or we're talking about, oh, my cow gave bad milk. Well, then it got into some brambles or something. It wasn't,
Superstitious times, whenever superstition was taken quite literally. These things were meant to be feared in that particular period of time. They didn't really know any better. So
there were a lot of socioeconomic considerations involved at the time too. You've got the Protestant Reformation occurring during this time period, and so that's thrown a lot of turmoil and upheaval into European culture as well. And rather than blame their fellow Christians, let's find a common scapegoat. Oh, hey, there are these women who are doing this work, healing children and so forth, and making the sick well, and instead, we're going to persecute them. We're going to torture them. We're going to burn them.
Of course, they were in league with the devil.
Of course. I mean, of course, if you have a skin tag, or a mole, or any of these characteristics that you find in the Malleus Maleficorum, they're characteristics that would be common among women who were approaching their middle age and older years. So this was strictly a persecution of women who were no longer productive for the patriarchy community.
Well said.
Yeah, it's some bullshit, but here we are. So, I'm kind of curious to talk about the LaVeyan component. So Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satanism in the late 60s.
1966, I believe, is when they actually declared it. They called it, I guess, the Great Year of Satan. It was going to be a new beginning, a new satanic dawn is kind of what he was looking for. And so they founded it on Walpurgisnacht, just I think because Anton LaVey himself, in his life was, I think, a carnival barker and many other several kind of, I don't know how you would describe him.
Well, he was like a police photographer at one point.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously he had a very interesting life up to the point where he founded the Church of Satanism. Which,
right.
I mean, let's push it further. So.
I think he founded it on that particular night because of its connections to being a practical, jokey kind of a holiday. And LaVeyan, even in his own writings, I mean, contradicted himself on a few different things. I think he was a very good kind of a trickster kind of a guy.
Well,
and the connections, of course, to Walpurga herself.
yeah, well, I mean, you certainly have, like, connections to witchcraft within, like, the broader LaVeyan, like, satanic paradigm. I mean, I think about, like, the way that they conduct the Black Mass, and it's all very much drawing from the same kind of influences that you see in Gardnerian witchcraft that come from, obviously, from Aleister Crowley. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, in my book, Aleister Crowley and the Western esoteric tradition, I kind of detail how everything that we understand in modern paganism has some touch or point where it's brushed against what Crowley was doing. So, I mean, of course, LaVeyan Satanism is influenced by that as well.
Surely.
So, it's interesting to note as well. I've noticed a lot of posts recently. Our friend Bob McDonald is formerly the exclusive primate, and I think he's primate emeritus now of the Ecclesia of Babylon, and they're doing a big Walpurgisnacht event as well, and they're a Thelmeg group. I think they're really focused in Brazil right now. I think that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear what happens with what they're doing. It's interesting. I think they're exploring the Dark Mother egregore, and that's an exciting new...
Around the world, it seems like they have really good events for Walpurgisnacht. In Germany, apparently they light big bonfires. They set off fireworks to ward off the evil spirits. Like we were saying earlier, it is the trick to Halloween's treat. So it is kind of a counterpart to Halloween. You know, they kind of both serve the same purpose. Only this was a little bit more designed to ward off the Queen of Spring. So they wanted to, kind of interact with these... I don't know. They would participate in these rituals to kind of ward off these evil spirits from wreaking havoc on crops and things like that, like you were explaining earlier, kind of other natural kind of phenomena.
Well, I mean, it's everything that's outside of the domain of the people who, in a pre-industrial society, they didn't have the scientific means to understand what was going on.
Right.
Meanwhile, of course, we understand that, like, magic is a phenomenon that's not quite like what they pictured, I think.
I think so, too.
So,
I like our practical magic.
Right. Conceptually, it makes a little more sense to me. But, I mean, we're all coming from the paradigms that we came up in.
Definitely.
And, if I had been born Christian in the Middle Ages, I mean, maybe witches were the problem.
Luckily, we grew up in a free nation where we could choose our own religion. Our religion doesn't choose us.
Here to that. So, what's your band doing?
Right now, we're in the rehearsal stage still, but we do write songs. We have like a 10-song set we run through.
How would you describe
original material with a couple of covers, but I would describe it as a kind of an indie rock band. No drummer, just a guitar. We do have drums, but they are, of course, programmed.
Hey.
But it sounds killer.
I'm excited to hear some.
We're excited to share it with everybody soon enough.
Fantastic.
It's coming along.
It's my hope that, like, later this year we'll be able to get together, at least in the Evansville, Indiana area, with some of the other people from the group and who have been watching the page and following along with things here. Hopefully we'll have Chris out, like...
I would love to come to a gathering.
Well, we really appreciate everybody coming out to this little conversational video. I will let you know there's going to be a great outtakes tape as well. It's going to be interesting. So, looking forward to all of that. Of course, we're going to do the Beltane service. You'll see that video come in as well. Anybody wants to offer ideas for future videos, please put that in the comments. And otherwise, we'll see you next time.
See you next time. And be sure to get out there and campaign for Hexennacht. We need to really bring that back in this country.
Definitely.
Who can't use 2 Halloweens? I'm serious. Like, who can't use 2 Halloweens in a year? And you know what? Americans are overworked. You know, we work 40 hours a week, if not more, in a lot of cases, if you really want to have a sustainable future. I mean, people just want to have fun and relax and celebrate life. And this is just one of those holidays that kind of helps celebrate life. You know, you don't have to have the candy. You don't have to have the commercialism. You can just play practical jokes on each other because it's the jokester holiday.
There we go. That's a good idea.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you for acknowledging my good idea.
And I would be remiss if you didn't mention all those times you threw your fist. Take it anymore. All your lies, all your tears, apathy has brought me here. Harbinger of misery, breaker of my sanity.
We have a little breakdown there.